What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. Our schedule preview projected record series continues with the Florida State Seminoles, coming off of an undefeated regular season and, of course, not making the college football playoff. I'm sure everyone's tired of talking about that. I still think they should have been in the playoff. It wouldn't have mattered because they probably would not have won. I definitely don't think they would have won both games in the playoff, but it's still crazy to me that an undefeated team gets left out. We don't have to worry about that anymore, though. Problem for Florida State is they're probably going to wish they had the schedule they had last year this year, because this schedule this year is going to be really tough. This was that schedule last year. They did play LSU and Florida, of course, in the non-conference, so they played two non-conference games that were pretty tough, but the ACC wasn't great last year. They didn't play Louisville in the regular season, didn't play NC State, didn't play North Carolina. So they had a pretty favorable schedule, even though they did go out and play LSU in the non-conference. It wasn't that bad. You look at the schedule this year, and I think it could wind up being a little bit tougher, and I'll explain why. But first, let's break it down. First, we'll look at the non-conference games. So they play Memphis on the road at Notre Dame, Charleston Southern, and Florida. I would argue that that's a tougher non-conference schedule because Notre Dame is a true road game where they played LSU on a neutral field last year, even though the game was in Florida. And then Memphis is a pretty good team at that group of five level. So this is a tougher non-conference schedule, in my opinion. And then you go to their home schedule. They got Memphis, Charleston Southern, Florida, Boston College, Cal, Clemson, and North Carolina. Not too tough of a home schedule. These are all games they've got a great chance to win. You know, Clemson, we'll see what that team looks like this year. Florida State, I think, is still going to be really good. I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year. They did lose a lot, but they added a lot in the transfer portal, enough to reload and enough to, I think, make them, a top 15 team. Maybe not a top 5 team, but a top 15 team. Where will Clemson wind up? I don't know. They could be a top 15 team as well. But again, all these games very winnable. Road schedule, though, you've got that game against Notre Dame. You've got Miami, who I think has a chance to be better this year. You have to play them on the road. Duke and SMU could be a little bit tricky on the road. And then Georgia Tech, they play in Ireland. That's a week 0 game. You got to go all the way and leave the country against a Georgia Tech team, a program that is on the rise. That could be a pretty challenging game. And so again, the schedule, maybe it's not much tougher than last year's, but if you look at the way it sets up, this is what I don't like if I'm a Florida State fan. We'll start at the top. They've got that Georgia Tech game, and because that's a week 0 game, they will get 3 bye weeks because everyone gets 2 this year. They're going to get 3 bye weeks, so that is very interesting, and that could help them out. So they get that game, and then they'll play Boston College on September the 2nd at home, and then they get Memphis on the 14th, and then after that game, it'll be Cal on the 21st. Then it's on the road at SMU, Clemson at home. So you've got a bye week there between Boston College and Memphis. And circling back to that Boston College game, that's actually a Monday. That is Labor Day. So they play Georgia Tech, and then they have more than a week. So that'll be good, coming back to the United States, obviously, and playing Boston College on a Monday, then getting that bye week before Memphis. So that does work out pretty well, the way that's all set up. But yeah, there's Memphis, then there's Cal on the road at SMU on the 28th, then Clemson on October the 5th. That'll be a home game. Then they get a bye week after that Clemson game. It'll be after that. This is what I don't like about the schedule. So going from the Duke game to the Notre Dame game, you got on the road at Duke, then you got on the road at Miami, then you've got North Carolina at home, and then on the road at Notre Dame. So 3 out of 4 games there, all on the road. I have no idea why they set the schedule up that way. That's going to be a tough stretch right there. I don't know how good Duke's going to be with Mike Elko gone and Riley Leonard gone, but they could be a pretty good team. We'll see. Miami's going to be a very difficult game. North Carolina is one of those that we don't know too much about right now. And Notre Dame's going to be a very difficult game, especially on the road. And then they get a bye week after Notre Dame. So that does not set up well at all. Charleston Southern after that, and then Florida to close things out. So again, you look at the schedule. The first part of it is nice, the way it sets up there. But that middle of the schedule from, luckily they get a bye week after Clemson, and you don't have that stretch from Clemson to Notre Dame all in a row. And, what's also interesting about this schedule, you see California and you see SMU. Those are ACC conference games. Think about that for a second. That is going to be so weird. And SMU was a good team last year. This was a team that was a borderline top 25 team, and they could be good again. that's going to be possibly a challenge there. So this schedule, in my opinion, it's not that easy. If you just took the opponents on paper, you might say, this is not too tough a schedule. But playing in Ireland, playing all those road games together right there, it's going to be a tough schedule, in my opinion. So let's get to the projection. First, let's look at the projections from last year. Now, they were 12-0. Our projection had them at 9-3. I picked them to go 10-2. I was so close to putting them at 11-1. But I was back and forth on that LSU game. I had Florida State originally, so I would have had them 11-1. I changed my mind. Should have left it alone. Anyways, Athlon had them at 10-2. The over/under was at 9.5. And this is a team. The Clemson win on the road, that's what really surprised me. I didn't see them doing that. Again, I thought they might beat LSU. That was a tough one for me to pick. But I thought it was going to be 11-1 or 10-2. They go 12-0. So definitely proved a lot of people wrong last year. And so this is the scale that we use to do this projection. If it's less than 20 or over 80, those are games where I think the spread will be 16, 17 plus points, games that are almost guaranteed wins. 20 to 29, 71 to 80, those are games where I think the spread will be double digits, 10 to 15, maybe in that range. 30 to 39, 61 to 70, games where I think the spread will be about a touchdown, 6, 7, 8, 9 points. And then the 40 to 60 range, those are your 50-50 games where I think the spread will be less than a touchdown, 5 or less, something in that range. But we do have a tier system that we use here, so it's not really about the spreads. Let's get into it here, and we'll start with the easy wins. You've only got one, and that's another thing that makes this schedule tough. Yeah, there's a lot of games where they're going to be favored by double digits, but there's not, other than Charleston Southern, is there a game on this schedule you can point to and say, yeah, that's a win. That's a guaranteed win. No chance they lose. I'm looking at Memphis and Cal, some of these games that they should win, but there's no guarantee. And they're going to have a lot of roster turnover, so we really don't know how good this team's going to be. I did put them in that second tier, so they're a tier 2 team in my opinion right now. You've got Boston College, Memphis, Cal, and North Carolina. I've got all these in the blue. I think playing at home against these teams, they should be favored by a couple touchdowns, 14 points in that range. So would be very surprised if they lost to any of these games, but they could. Again, upsets happen, but good news is they're all at home, so I would be very surprised again if they were to lose one of these games. Usually you see those big upsets happen on the road. And then you go to the games here in the purple where I think they'll be favored by about a touchdown. Georgia Tech, again, in Ireland, first game of the season. A Georgia Tech team and program that seems to be getting better and better, building some momentum. That could be a difficult game right there. But I do think Florida State will be favored by about a touchdown. Now, SMU on the road could be a tricky game. Duke on the road. I haven't really done a ton of research on Duke just yet. It's only February. That one might turn out being more of a blue type game. We'll see. Florida, because it's a rivalry game, we've got that one here as well. So those 4 games, all games that Florida State should win, should be favored in, but would not be surprised at all if there was an upset somewhere in there. Maybe even a couple of upsets in those 4 games, because they will be difficult in my opinion. So then you go to Clemson, Miami, and Notre Dame. Those are your 50-50 games. You get a projection of 8-4. That's how it comes out with the formula. So if you're wondering, we average all these games out based off of those percentages, and that's the projection we get. Doesn't mean they're going to lose to Clemson, Miami, and Notre Dame. It just means that they might lose a couple of those games, and then lose to a couple of games in the purple, or maybe they slip up and lose one of these games in the blue. However you get there, you average everything out, and again, that's the projection. So a pretty low projection for Florida State. Coming off of an undefeated season. I don't really see that happening. I think this team is at least 9-3, but it is a difficult schedule, and it has that group there from Duke to Notre Dame that's going to be difficult. It's got SMU and Clemson back-to-back. Could be difficult. A game in Ireland, a game against your rival Florida. I think this is a tougher schedule than people are probably going to think because of the way the game's set up and everything. But yeah, 8-4, that's the projection, not my prediction. We'll do predictions much later, but a very early projection for Florida State is 8-4. That means I think the over-under probably for this team is like 8.5. We'll see. I don't think those have come out yet, but that's probably about where that number is going to be because our projections usually line up with those over-unders. So 8-4, the projection, Florida State, that'd be a very disappointing season. Do you guys agree or disagree? Give me your thoughts on the Seminoles down in the comments below.